Ladies and gentlemen, success does not visit the lazy thinker. It does not dine with the idle dreamer. It answers only to those who understand one eternal law. Your thoughts act like a magnet. What you dwell on is what you draw into your life. If your mind is the soil, then your thoughts are the seeds. Plant weeds, and you'll reap weeds. Plant wealth, vision, faith, and you'll harvest abundance. The universe does not give you what you want. It gives you what you are and what you habitually think. What you consistently hold in your mind, what you dwell on day in and day out, will inevitably shape the circumstances of your life. This is not mere philosophy or positive thinking fluff. It is law. Just as gravity does not care whether you believe in it, this law does not wait for your permission. Your reality bends itself to the patterns of your most persistent thoughts. Every outcome you experience, whether you label it success or failure, is rooted in your mental habits. The mind, when left undirected, becomes a servant to circumstance. But the mind that is governed with purpose becomes a master over it. Most people drift through life allowing random, fearful, anxious thoughts to occupy their mental space. They let their minds focus on lack, on limitation, on what's missing. And then they wonder why life continues to withhold abundance. Your outer world will always reflect your inner world. If your mind is saturated with ideas of defeat, struggle, and scarcity, do not be surprised when your life begins to echo those conditions. But the reverse is also true. When you begin to command your mind, to fill it deliberately with thoughts of strength, vision, wealth, clarity, and possibility, you activate a force that starts to shift people, events, and opportunities in your favor. It is not magic, it is cause and effect. You are not merely a victim of chance. You are an architect, and your most used tool is thought. Think long enough on any idea, whether noble or destructive, and that idea will begin to show up in your speech, in your decisions, and finally, in your results. It will attract to you people who match the tone of that thought. It will color the lens through which you see the world. It will even shape your energy, because the body responds to the mind. That is why a confident person walks, speaks, and even breathes differently than a defeated one. Thought precedes action. Action shapes destiny. This is why it is not enough to merely hope for success or happiness. You must build it in the mind first. You must live there before you live here. Success, before it becomes external, must be internal. You must become mentally wealthy before you will ever see financial wealth. You must think in terms of courage before you will take bold actions. The battlefield is won or lost before the first sword is drawn, because the battle begins in thought. The question is not, will your thoughts shape your life? They already are. The real question is, are you aware of which thoughts dominate your mind? Because whether you know it or not, those dominant thoughts are shaping your beliefs, and those beliefs are making decisions for you, even when you're not watching. Guard your thoughts. Feed them wisely. Speak them with conviction. And above all, repeat them until they burn into your soul. Because the moment a thought becomes dominant, it begins to pull its physical counterpart toward you. And that is when the real transformation begins. Thought alone is not enough. It is the beginning, yes. It sets direction. It outlines the vision. But without emotion, thought is cold, lifeless, and impotent. It is the fire of emotion that gives thought its power to move, to attract, and to create. Just as an engine cannot run on metal alone, it requires fuel. So too must thought be charged with feeling before it can influence reality. You can say 100 times, I want success. But if your words are hollow, if they are not backed by a deep emotional drive, by a sense of burning desire, hunger, or belief, then your mind will not respond, and neither will the world. It is not repetition alone that causes transformation. It is emotional repetition that engraves a message into your subconscious. The mind does not remember information. It remembers impact. And emotion is impact. Think of the most defining moments in your life. You do not remember them because of logic. You remember them because they moved you. They stirred something within. That's how lasting change is created. When you feel something with intensity, it anchors the thought into your nervous system. It goes from being an idea to a command, from a wish to a demand. Now understand this: the universe does not respond to shallow wants. It responds to emotional certainty. If your desire is weak, if your belief is passive, if your vision is not emotionally compelling, it will not gather the momentum required to manifest. But take that same thought and infuse it with fierce determination, absolute faith, or even defiant passion. And now you've turned it into a force that begins to attract people, places, and opportunities in harmony with its frequency. Emotion is what creates the magnetic charge. It sends out a signal far stronger than thought alone. You can sit in a room all day thinking of what you want, but if you are emotionally disconnected, bored, doubtful, passive, you're not transmitting power. But even a single thought, felt deeply, down to your bones, can begin a chain reaction that changes everything. This is why success is not just mental, but emotional. The individual who achieves what others call impossible is almost always someone who feels their goal with complete conviction. They live it emotionally before they ever live it physically. They suffer for it. They obsess over it. They feel the joy of victory long before they ever arrive. And because of that, they rarely fail. On the other hand, a person who trees, but doesn't feel, who thinks, but doesn't believe, who wants, but does not burn with desire, will forever wonder why nothing changes. They are moving without energy, speaking without vibration, thinking without force. So, if you truly want to change your life, don't just write down what you want. Feel it. Close your eyes and step into it emotionally. Speak it as though it's already yours. Inject your thoughts with emotion until they become unshakable. Because thought guides the arrow, but it is emotion that draws the bow and gives it flight. The world responds to emotion. People follow emotion. Decisions are made from emotion. And reality is shaped not by cold thought, but by thoughts that are alive with energy. Emotion is the fuel. Make sure your thoughts are burning. You cannot draw into your life that which you secretly push away. You may speak of your desires, write them down, create vision boards, repeat affirmations. But if deep down your beliefs contradict what you claim to want, then all your effort will be canceled out by the silent forces working beneath your surface. Life does not respond to your words, it responds to your vibration, and your vibration is shaped by your beliefs, not your performance. If you say you want wealth, but you hold resentment toward the wealthy, you will block prosperity at every turn. If you claim to desire love, but you walk through life doubting your worth or distrusting others, you will quietly repel connection no matter how much you long for it. The contradiction is not always visible, but it is always powerful. You cannot walk east and west at the same time. Likewise, you cannot attract something into your life while mentally or emotionally opposing it. This is the trap most people fall into. They think desire is enough. It's not. Your subconscious does not follow what you say, it follows what you believe. It responds to what you accept as true. If your mind is a battlefield of inner conflict, you will create confusion in your results. Life will seem stuck, delayed, frustrating. You'll tell yourself you're trying, but something just isn't clicking. That something is usually contradiction. And until you identify and remove it, you'll stay in that loop. You cannot attract success while secretly believing you don't deserve it. You cannot manifest opportunity while carrying guilt for wanting more. You cannot call abundance into your life while rehearsing scarcity in your head every day. The universe is consistent. It rewards alignment. When your thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and actions are all pointed in the same direction, doors open quickly. So you must ask yourself honestly and without flinching, what are the silent beliefs I carry that cancel out my desires? It might be a story inherited from childhood, a lie the world repeated until you started repeating it too. It might be fear masked as humility, or self-doubt disguised as being realistic. Whatever it is, it has to go, because until it does, your energy will remain divided, and divided energy cannot create. You must become the kind of person who is internally congruent. You must train your mind to believe the same things you claim to want. Your identity must match your vision. That means removing bitterness, envy, guilt, shame, and old emotional debris that tells you you're not worthy or capable of having what you seek. Because no matter how strong your desire, it will never overpower a belief that says, "This is not for me." This is not about pretending. It's not about faking confidence or speaking empty affirmations. It's about reconditioning your mind until what you believe no longer undermines what you desire. That's when you become a magnet, not just for dreams, but for results. You cannot attract what you contradict, but once you are aligned, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, the things you used to chase will begin to come to you. Because now there is no resistance, there is no conflict, there is only forward momentum. And in that state, nothing is out of reach. One of the most misunderstood forces in human achievement is repetition. People underestimate it because it seems simple, even boring. But make no mistake, repetition is the foundation of mastery, the builder of belief, and the architect of your mental blueprint. Nothing rewires the mind more effectively than what you return to again and again with focused attention and emotion. Repetition isn't just a learning tool, it's how your subconscious is programmed. Your subconscious does not learn through logic. It does not learn by occasional inspiration or one-time declarations. It learns through frequency. What you repeat becomes familiar, and what becomes familiar begins to feel safe, normal, and true, even if it isn't. This is how limiting beliefs were installed in the first place. You were told the same thing about yourself, about life, or about your potential repeatedly. And over time, you accepted it as fact, not because it was true, but because it was consistent. So if repetition has the power to install lies, it also has the power to build truth. It can uproot old patterns and replace them with new ones, but only if you use it intentionally. When you repeat a thought, an image, a belief, a goal, over and over, with conviction, you carve a new groove into the mind. At first, it feels fake, forced, but the more you return to it, the more natural it becomes. And the moment it becomes natural, you begin to act in alignment with it, automatically, without hesitation. This is the difference between people who wish for change and those who create it. Wishing is passive, but repetition is deliberate. You don't just think a new thought once and wait for your life to shift. You hammer it into your mind day after day until it becomes your mental default. You write the vision. You speak it aloud. You imagine it in vivid detail. You feel the emotion of already having it. You live in the energy of that outcome before it arrives. And you do it repeatedly until it is etched into your identity. And identity is the key, because once a new thought becomes part of your identity, you no longer have to force it. A person who believes they are disciplined doesn't have to convince themselves to take action. They just act. A person who believes they are worthy doesn't negotiate with self-doubt every day. They walk in confidence. It's not willpower, it's wiring. And wiring comes from repetition. If you look at elite performers in any field, what separates them is rarely raw talent. It's mental conditioning. They've repeated a certain mindset, a certain behavior, a certain internal language for so long that it's second nature. While others are hesitating or overthinking, they're already moving because the blueprint is in place. Their responses are automatic, not accidental. This applies to every part of life. Want to become more confident? Repeat confident thoughts. Want to attract abundance? Repeat thoughts of abundance, not scarcity. Want to be fearless? Repeat courage in your mind until fear no longer dominates your inner dialogue. Repetition makes the extraordinary feel ordinary, and once it feels ordinary, it becomes reachable. Understand this: the mind is always under construction. Whether you do it consciously or not, you are repeating something. The question is, what are you repeating? Doubt, fear, failure, or power, vision, and certainty. You get to choose. But whatever you choose to repeat, you will eventually believe. And whatever you believe, you will live. So don't chase motivation. Build momentum through repetition. Let your thoughts become your blueprint, and let that blueprint shape the world around you. Because when the mind is convinced, the body follows, and so does your life. There is a subtle but powerful truth that governs your inner world, and few ever learn to master it. What you resist, you invite. And what you ignore, you empower. These are not just clever phrases. They are psychological and energetic laws, constantly at work whether you recognize them or not. Whatever you push against with fear, with anger, with denial, whatever you try to bury, hide, suppress, or avoid, grows stronger. The more energy you give to resisting something, the more it becomes rooted in your awareness, and the more influence it gains over your thoughts, emotions, and behavior. When you resist fear, you don't erase it, you feed it. You turn it into an internal enemy you are constantly battling, and by doing so, you keep it alive. When you resist failure, you obsess over it and begin to act from a place of tension, not power. When you resist pain, whether emotional or mental, you often prolong it because the energy it takes to avoid or suppress something is the very energy that keeps it active. Resistance is not strength. It's friction. It's mental quicksand. The harder you fight something, the more stuck you become in it. This is why people who constantly say, "I don't want to be broke. I don't want to fail. I don't want to get hurt," often attract those exact experiences. Their focus may sound like rejection, but it's still focus. And the subconscious doesn't understand don't. It simply responds to the dominant image and feeling. So when you resist failure, you are still emotionally rehearsing failure. When you resist being alone, you're still reinforcing the emotional state of loneliness. And ignoring isn't any better. What you try to pretend isn't there. What you avoid dealing with, looking at, or healing doesn't go away. It simply moves underground and grows in the dark. You may silence the voice consciously, but it will begin to speak in your reactions, in your relationships, in your self-sabotage. Ignoring a limiting belief does not dissolve it. It gives it freedom to operate unchecked. And sooner or later, it will show up in your life disguised as bad luck, fate, or just how things are. The mind is not a place where you can leave things unresolved and expect peace. Whatever you leave unexamined, you grant power. Whatever you don't face, you permit. And often, the things you avoid the most are the very things you must confront if you want to grow, evolve, or become free. There is no bypassing the inner work, so the solution is not to fight your fears, nor to run from them. It's to meet them with awareness, to face them squarely, understand their root, and then reframe them. Because when you bring something into the light, when you acknowledge it without panic or judgment, you strip it of its control. You begin to reclaim your energy. You begin to choose your responses rather than be ruled by reflexes. This is the path of true power, not resistance, not avoidance, but clarity. The ability to observe your internal world without being enslaved by it. The willingness to feel your fears and still move forward. The discipline to face uncomfortable truths and rewrite them. When you do this, you stop inviting what you don't want, and you begin to attract what aligns with your strength. To grow, you must stop battling shadows. You must shine a light, take responsibility for what's in your mind, and choose to master it. Because until you do, the very things you try to avoid will continue to shape your life from behind the curtain. So don't resist. Don't ignore. Acknowledge, understand, and transform. That is how freedom is built, one conscious thought at a time. Your mind is the command center of your destiny. It is not a playground, it is a workshop. Train it, discipline it. Feed it only that which builds and uplifts, because what you dwell on, day after day, will come to meet you, shake your hand, and call itself your life. So I ask you, what are you magnetizing today? Whatever it is, be sure it's worth becoming. Thank you.